Welcome back. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the latest series of sketches that I've been working on. And if you're enjoying these videos, please let me know in the comments. So let's go ahead and jump right in. What I want to do is I want to share with you what's going on inside of my head with these sketches. I'll share my thoughts and secrets of how I'm seeing the artwork develop and hopefully give you a better understanding of what goes into these sketches for me. And as you can see, I have my reference photo up, and we can see there's a lot of detail in this scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is prioritize my major elements and not get bogged down with the detail. It's important to point out that every artist approaches art a little differently, and this is just my approach. At this point, I'm just looking for the general shapes and angles and the major lines. Visually, I'm trying to break up the building into those shapes. I'm observing the telephone pole, each building face, the awning, and that entry architecture as my major components. Everything else is just detail. As you can see, those are the areas that I'll focus on first, and I'll decide on the fly how much of that additional detail I want to include. But I know that my major shapes are already taken care of. Now, I want to talk a little bit about time boxing your sketches. This sketch took me just around 5 minutes to complete, and I think it's important to practice sketches by limiting your time to 5 minutes or less. This exercise helps you to focus on the important elements and not get bogged down by that detail. It forces you to keep moving and get in a better practice to start seeing which detail is worth capturing. Speaking of detail, as you can see, I've already started to move on to the next phase of my sketch, which is to draw some more of that detail. It's in this phase that I will also try to capture all of my windows. I have a few techniques that help me determine which detail is important. One is simply just glancing at my scene. I'm trying to look for the interesting elements that catch my eye first. It's those elements that I'm going to decide to include. Another trick is to observe my scene by only focusing on the values. Which areas are darker than the others? Which ones stand out? Which ones don't? I don't necessarily need to draw all of the details in those areas that stand out, but I do want to at least try to capture some of that value. And that's just going to help imply that detail. Since these sketches are meant to be just small studies, and in this case I'm studying shadows and specifically how the colors interact with the shadows, I'm intentionally keeping the details light in these sketches. Now, as I wrap up the rest of the detail, I want to talk to you about the next phase coming up, which is to add color. I'll switch over to my markers and I'll start to add my shadows. For these sketches, I've been experimenting with adding shadows first, and I'm using a blue marker for those shadows. I really like the contrast that it makes. Now, I could stop with just the shadows applied, and I'll get a nice dramatic sketch, which works great when trying to do value studies. But I'll continue on with adding some more colors. You'll see me use a tan color for my building, and normally I'll apply the color I'm using for the building on top of my shadows, and that just helps to blend everything together, but this time I'm going to stop short and leave the shadow colors untouched. I wanted to experiment with the starker contrast of colors. Now, I also want to talk quickly about the paper that I'm using. This is a standard sketchbook with an uncoated, textured paper that really doesn't hold up to my alcohol markers. And you'll see me flip my page in a little bit, and I want you to notice that I get a lot of bleed through. So much, in fact, that I'm actually using a loose piece of paper behind my page to catch that bleed through. Now, personally, I would recommend using paper that is designed for mixed media or watercolor. And that's it. That's my sketch. If you haven't already, please give it a like and subscribe.